Hey everybody, it's Monday night.
So thank you all for being here with us. My name is Rachel Perry, adult programming coordinator. Kathryn Kauffman. Miss Kathryn Kauffman, all the way from Lexington, joining us here tonight.
Welcome to Monday Night Live in Lexington, you guys. My name is Kathryn Kauffman, and I'm a psychic medium here in Lexington, Kentucky. Welcome to my every Monday night show. This is where we explore what and who we are on this journey called life. I'm trying a different setup this evening, so I may be fooling around with the camera here a little bit. This may or may not work out. We'll just have to see. Apologize to those of you guys on Instagram joining that you can only see half of my face. I'm trying to get a new setup where I can see you guys and see Facebook at the same time. Let's do some shout outs over here on Facebook. Hey to James. Shout out to Ricky Elkins. What are you doing, man? Hey to Ina. Special shout out to Yasmin. Thanks for joining us this evening, and to Zoe. And hey to Christina over here on Instagram. Thank you for joining me this evening. Tonight's episode is going to be all about the Sylph. And the Sylph are a classification of elementals. Yes, it's Monday, Ricky. And that means like we're all trudging down the same road. We dread the week, but we got to do it. So let's just have a little bit of fun here on Monday night. What say you? Hey to Tammy, and hey to Molly Webb over here on Instagram, and Sala. Thanks for joining me this evening. We have already gone over 2 episodes of elementals, the gnomes and the undines. So if you missed those episodes and you want to watch those, they're already loaded up on my YouTube channel, and I will put a link in the comments section after the show so you can hop over there and watch those shows if you want to. Now, let's go over the show schedule, because I have a topic everybody is waiting for, and I want you guys to know we are going to go over it. We will get there. And that is what to do if you're under psychic attack, which happened to me lately. So it really made me sit down and think about what are the steps I can teach you guys about on taking care of something like that when it happens, how to know when it's happening. And so that show is going to be April the 29th. Now, next Monday night, April 22nd, we're going over the last element of fire, and those are the salamanders. And then after that show, we're going to get ready for psychic defense, how to know when you're under attack and how to defend yourself. Hey to Megan, Joy, and Raymond, and Chastity. Thanks for joining us. And hey to Ina and Evan over here on Instagram. If you guys have any questions about the content this evening, just drop a comment for me. If I don't get to you, or if it goes by too fast on the feed, I will go back and answer all those questions. It may be tomorrow, but I promise you I'll get to them. For those of you that have joined the link on my professional page, that's the only page I'm not seeing a direct chat. So if you want to join in the chat, I did leave a link there for you. All you have to do is hit that link, and it goes over right here to the personal page where I'm looking at the chat. Hey to Michael Fest. Hope you guys are enjoying sunny Florida, because it is cold up here in Kentucky and we are not liking it. We went from 76, 78-degree weather to 30 degrees this morning. And you know, you just want to take a pen and go, ah, that's not fair. We thought for sure spring was here, but no, it's just a trick. All right, so let's get into the sylphs. The sylphs are air elementals. And we really, like, we talk about and we see stories and shows about gnomes and mermaids and stuff like that, but we rarely see any material about sylphs and salamanders. And so I want to bring up what the sylphs and the salamanders are. Now, salamanders is next Monday night, but we're going to figure out what the sylph are. Now, the sylph have been portrayed in a lot of programs, and specifically in ballads and tales, as being two different type of beings. So the original writings of this Swiss German physician Paracelsus, and he even took some of his ideas and some of his writings from ancient texts himself, but he associated the elementals with the classic element, air, fire, earth, and water. So the sylphs are attached to air, or they are air elementals. Now, I'm going to give you his definition of what a sylph is, and then I'm going to give you the other definition of what a sylph is in accordance with a lot of movies and ballads and things like that. So according to Paracelsus, he said that sylphs were rougher, coarser, taller, stronger than humans, and the elementals are said to be able to move through their own element, just like human beings move through the earth element here. The sylphs are large and vibrant and forceful, according to Paracelsus. Now, if you look at the other definition of sylphs, and those are associated with the fairies, the legends, the ballads, the movies, they're more associated with fairyland and being diminutive type of small, fluffy, air-like elements. And also they referred to, like, let's say in a Midsummer Night's Dream, they refer to a slender, diminutive girl as a sylph. So we have two totally different type of classifications of sylphs. The smaller ones are more associated with air spirits or air fairies. And I think the true sylph are the ones that Paracelsus were describing as large and voracious and vibrant and things like that. So the sylphs are more evolved than air spirits, and they travel through the air. In fact, what I'm thinking the sylph are, and a lot of people will associate them with the clouds. But now remember, when we went over the first episode of the elementals and the gnomes, how the gnome energy is overlaid on top of rocks, trees, the earth, and things like that. In the same respect, I feel like the sylph their energy is overlaid onto the clouds of air. And so what you're going to notice is that the clouds or the wind behaves in a certain way that will catch your attention, that's not of the norm, and that kind of gives it away that that is a sylph. So they travel through air, surfing winds and air currents, and shaping weather patterns. So why is this important in spring? From the first two shows that we talked about, I was trying to say that in the spring, when the energies are really rising in the earth here in this hemisphere, everything is springing into life. There is a huge surge of life growth, and that really catalyzes the elementals into a lot of misbehavior, so to speak. And so you're going to see a lot of windstorms, a lot of tornadoes, and it's at this time of year when the energies are rising that classically the elementals will cause trouble. Now, unlike the gnomes, gnomes love to torment your pets, your animals, your horses, and that kind of thing. The sylph are simply so carried away with the energy of spring that they can cause devastation. They can cause and create tornadoes, windstorms, dust devils. It's a tumultuous, out of control type of energy that the sylph bring to the plate. So what they're doing is they're transferring raw or vital energy to the environment. And they can also do that with humans, is transfer raw or vital energy to the minds of the people that are in close proximity to the sylph. And so haven't you ever been in like a thunderstorm or a windstorm, and it just the raw energy of it really was quite stimulating and it kind of exciting to see everything in the tumultuous dance of clouds and wind. And it can be very invigorating, and that's the energy from the sylph. And so they overlay their energy onto physical elements, and they're bonded together, just like the gnomes and earth, just like the undines and water. Now, we have another documentation by this guy. His name is Jeffrey Hodson, and he wrote a book called The Kingdom of Fairy. I think this was published in 1926. And so he tries to put into words kind of describing the sylph. Let me check for any questions really quick. Hey to Chelsea, Russell, Ellie, Kimberly, Pat. Hey to Scott Harden, Tony, Margaret, Allie, Nancy, and Bob. Thanks for joining us. And if you guys over here on Instagram have any questions, I can see the comments a little bit better with my new setup tonight, so I'll try to be cognizant of checking right over here for you. So this is how Jeffrey Hodson describes observing the sylph. Hey to Janice. This is an excerpt from his book. So he says, we are sitting at the edge of a wood consisting of a very old larch and pine tree, which cover the sandstone hill from the southern slopes. We're able to see a wide panorama of the beautiful countryside, which stretches all the way down to South Downs. An atmosphere of spontaneous joyousness and gaiety pervades all of the activities of the various members of the diva evolution who are found in this neighborhood. There's a strong southwesterly wind, strong southwesterly wind, in which the sylphs are to be seen disporting themselves. Now, disporting means, you know, kind of like frolicking. Their gambols, and gambols mean like dancing, consist of long, swift, straight rides down the wind for miles and miles until they are lost in the distance, or of twists and turns and sudden upward dartings, followed by breathless dives which cease abruptly just above the treetops, and are again followed by an equally swift ascent thousands of feet into the air. Here and there, groups combined in a wild aerial dance with their auras streaming out from behind them as if blown by the wind. Their eyes wild with excitement and intoxicated with joy. They swing in great circles, suddenly formed and suddenly broken. And you know, just him describing this is very, very similar to one of my experiences in watching a tornado form in the circular pattern and the gusts of the wind that are involved. So we're looking at whirling masses of force and also vital energy that the sylph impart on to the physical element of air. So this is just fascinating to me. So I feel like the wind may be the vital energy of the sylph imparting onto the physical of the element of air. So they most likely are the energy that moves the wind. And for some reason, my Instagram is not behaving itself. Sorry, you guys over here on Instagram. Hey to W. Pat, thanks for joining us this evening. Okay, back to this. Now, it is said that sylph can connect with a human being, but they do not connect with us physically. They only connect with the mind energy or the consciousness. And so contact with the consciousness of the self is in this condition suggests it's a really state of concentrated energy. And they are saying similar to that found within an atom, it produces the feeling of compression almost to the bursting point of incalculable energy. So what that means in a nutshell is these are such massive forces, these true self, that the mental or consciousness connection with them can really be kind of constricting on the mind or compressing on the mind. So you have to be kind of careful when you try to communicate with a self, because it can be very taxing mentally. Okay, so the most important quality of the self is freedom. And that's why any contact with them or any communication with them is going to be extremely limited, because they consist in a constant state of flow and that vital energy, that movement. And they do not like to be restricted by obstacles, and they are totally concerned with flow and freedom. And so if there is contact with a human, it's going to be extremely limited. And that's kind of contrary to our thought on things, because as humans, we love to have control over stuff. So hey to Katie, Pam, Lana, Janice, Elsie. Michael has a question. My question today is, does the collective consciousness of man affect the self, and they in turn create the weather conditions? I think, according to the literature that I've studied, Michael, they are independent of the collective consciousness of man. They will have contact with man, but like I said, it's extremely limited, and their whole existence is flow and freedom and this vital energy. And so as humans, we love to control things, and we want to keep things here with us. And that goes contrary to what the self are all about. Now, it is also said that some magicians put a binding spell over elemental beings in order to control them for their own selfish purposes. I don't know, personally, I don't know if that really works. And how would you prove that you actually had control over a self? You may think that you're enlisting control over a self, only to find out later it is a different entity posing as a self to make that connection with you. So it's an interesting thought process and an interesting debate. So I'm just going on, what the literature kind of has led me to believe as far as that goes. Now, we definitely can have a connection with the self, but it's going to be extremely limited due to their nature. It's also said that the elementals do not have a soul. Maybe it's not a soul as we defined it. I think that in some of the literature that I looked at, they kind of defined a soul as individuation, and that the self were not individuated. But maybe it's just our interpretation of what a soul is. Maybe the self, I feel like they must have some kind of consciousness or some kind of soul to be in existence. And they're certainly so full of energy that they impart to our lives and to the elements. You know, it's the element. They are an element of their element. In other words, they're a part of their element. One can't exist without the other. So I'd like to think everything has a soul. That may be juvenile and naive, but that's just how I am. I'd like to think everything has some kind of consciousness and some kind of soul energy to it. Okay, carrying on with the sylphs. Again, we find that here we get into individualization. Fairies and sylphs and gnomes and all of those, they are said to be soulless. I don't agree with that, but I just present the material. So the mental, emotional associations with humans, in some of the writings, they say that that can be dangerous because of the nature of the sylph. They can tend to be kind of harmful to the human because of the voracious energy that they produce. And they cannot have a physical relationship with a human because that would require materialization, which they're not noted for. In anything that I've read, they don't seem to be noted for any materialization. Again, I feel like the energy is layered over the physical element. So if you have any questions on that, let me know. Let me check for questions here. Hey, to Lori Cartwright, thanks for joining us. And that was an excellent question, Michael. Thank you for asking that. Again, these elementals can really be at their most tumultuous during spring, because they are so connected with the physical elements of our earth, and because our physical elements are in a rush of energy right now to produce plant growth and the waters of spring, that everything, it's like a light switch has been turned on, and there's this huge surge of energy, and some of the elementals can get out of control, because to me it feels like they're just kind of carried away with the energy of the moment of spring. So that's my thought on it. Now, if any of you guys have any questions about this, that was my presentation on the sylph. And the real sylph are much different than the fairy sylph, the air spirits that have been portrayed in movies and songs and things like that. So they're very, very different. These beings are not diminutive in any way, shape, or form, and they can be destructive, but they can be extremely beautiful as well. Don't forget, next Monday night, we're going to go over the last of the elements, and that's the salamanders of the element of fire. And then the next week after that, and that's the 29th, stay tuned. It's probably going to be a two-part series. We're going to start part one of how to protect yourself if you have an onset of a psychic attack. We're going to also look at how do you determine if you're under psychic attack, and then how to defend yourself against it if it happens. So until next Monday night, you guys have a fabulous week. Don't let the weather get you down, and I will see you later. Kisses from Kentucky. Bye, guys. Have a good one.